That was a very fun week with some good surprises in it. No changes to my risk radar. Happy that the green light was on stocks to capture the new record this week, and the yellow lights also reflect the continued chopping back and forth, the rejection of Bitcoin from breaking out as we got that dollar bounce I was finally looking for, and the continued back and forth in the bond market ahead of CPI next week. So let's talk some GameStop. Why not? It's the most fun thing out there. Keith Gill's got guts, no question about it. GameStop, the whole situation is still mostly a joke, and quite literally too. It was very funny, and you gotta admire the guy. Essentially, from the beginning, he took his net worth. It's like going to the casino to the roulette table, put it all on 00, hitting it, and then put it all on 00 again. The trade structure is not for the queasy stomached investor, not for the faint of heart. And notice there's a lot of legal language this time around because Mr. Gill, Roaring Kitty, is no longer the small guy. We're talking hundreds of millions, but you gotta admire the gumption, and from a trader, a gambler's perspective, or just generally to be able to sit there while hundreds of millions are swinging on your balance sheet is pretty amazing stuff. So, okay, kudos to him for having a good time, and it's also very entertaining. But this is kind of serious stuff for anybody who looks at this and wants to emulate. Not only is it weird to have a 2-week expiry for what he calls a multi-year view, but it's also strange to hear the confidence in the management team, and what we've seen from Ryan Cohen at GameStop has been quite literally nothing, like missing in action. They don't even do conference calls. The one thing we can give GameStop credit for, which is smart, is to sell the shares when they ramp. Because when you've got a stock chart like the one for GameStop over the long term, that's what you should be doing, is taking care of the pumps to dump and generate revenues when otherwise your revenues are shrinking and your cash flows are still negative. This is not a traditional bull case. It's really not what Mr. Gill outlined originally, which was an enterprise value calculation compared to what he thought was there. That was fine, a little bit more well-reasoned, and I think a little bit more well-intentioned too, to be honest. This seems more like just a serious gamble, basically, because there hasn't been any change. Have you gone to a GameStop recently? I did the other day. It's an artifact of the 90s. We've never even heard any strategy from them. All we heard was a little thing about collectibles or NFTs here and there. The fact of the matter is that the core business still is massively struggling. I pulled up some data from the Bloomberg just to put it in perspective. The cash flows have not improved. The revenues are declining. The line is the revenue change on an annual basis. Sure, we might get a little improvement, but this is still a downtrend, and the cash flows are kind of hopeless. This is not a traditional bull case investment like in any other stock. This is a GoFundMe. This is a Kickstarter, basically, and that's fine if that's the way people want to treat the stock market now. That's totally up to you. If you want to go and you want to fund GameStop and make a donation, you can do that. Anybody can donate and be philanthropic throughout any means. It's just a novel thing for the market to act as a philanthropy mechanism, basically, because what you're doing is you're putting into belief a leadership and an execution that has had no evidence of progress, and then when the stock goes up on folks funding their belief for that, and then the shares are sold, which is technically the responsible thing for management to do, they're building up the coffers to do something or just take the profits. And so far, we haven't seen any plans. Now, I think maybe Keith Gill is not quite communicating. This is just pure suspect. Perhaps his communication with the leadership, maybe he knows something. Maybe Ryan Cohen does have a great plan. I'd be wrong if they suddenly came out and said we're going to use all this money to buy something else. That's possible they could, but so far there's no evidence of that. This is not a traditional stock by any means. Don't think about it like that. This is literally a GoFundMe, a Kickstarter for you to send money to them. And Roaring Kitty is no longer the small guy. He's more like an activist trader. So this is totally different than what it was in COVID, other than the risk.